I want to return to some things we discussed earlier in the day about travels with Mr. Epstein. I believe it was your testimony that Mr. Epstein was only on your corporate jet when you were present. Is that accurate?
Yes, to my knowledge.
And to your knowledge, I believe it was your testimony earlier that there would be surprise parties in which the jet was traveling to a location for one of those parties, but you could not recall Mr. Epstein being at the party. Is that correct?
Correct.
If Mr. Epstein was not attending the party, what were the purposes of his travel with you on your corporate jet?
I don't know.
Do you have a rough estimation of how many times you would have traveled with Mr. Epstein on your corporate jet?
I don't specifically recall any, but if it would have been once, twice, it would have been very few times. Because the aircraft was used primarily for business purpose. And when we used it personally, we paid for the airplane. So the notion of, of him using the plane or being on the plane for kind of social reasons or just bumming a ride kind of thing just never happened with anybody.
And I take that to mean you also never flew Mr. Epstein to locations where any of his various homes were located?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I never did that.
And just to clarify, I believe this might have been asked earlier. Did Mr. Epstein ever bring guests on these flights?
Not that I recall.
Your corporate plane at that time was a Boeing 727. Is that accurate?
We had two aircraft, 727, and we replaced it with a 737, and I don't remember. They looked alike except for their motors, so I can't remember. I know which came first and which came second, but I can't tell you in time.
And just to back up for a brief second, did you keep detailed flight logs for the personal travels on your corporate jet?
I believe we kept flight logs on our business aircraft and our personal airplane, always.
And the corporate jet, did you sell one of these airplanes to Mr. Epstein?
You mean the company?
The company, yes.
Yeah, the company sold an airplane to Mr. Epstein.
Do you recall when that sale was made?
No.
Can you guesstimate when that sale was made?
When they delivered the 737, I don't know when it was.
Do you, understanding your posture with the corporation has changed over the years, have you maintained any of those flight logs? Do you have them still as records today?
Never had them and don't have them.
Do you know why you do not have those flight logs?
I would assume CEOs don't keep flight logs of their company airplanes. It's a kind of shocking question.
You wouldn't have the corresponding flight logs of when you personally used the jet on your own your personal finances?
I think there are probably two reasons that I know we kept flight logs. And I think it's a government requirement that you have to have flight logs on an airplane. But two, so many people in the business, different CEOs would be using the planes, and every plane request would come to me because I wanted them to travel, and I wanted to make sure that they were then traveling with the people that they were traveling with. So I know I approved, or my admin approved on my behalf when I wasn't around, who was on the airplanes and the trip. Because, like, funnily, a CEO would request a trip, say they were going to go to Denver to visit stores, and there were 8 people that were going on the store visit. Then I'd approve it because that would be a good use. And then so it'd say, the CEO went by themselves. And it's like, no, it's not the purpose. So it was a very expensive and valuable asset to the business, and I wanted to know that it was being used appropriately. But I never reviewed the flight logs. You know, it's just that level of minutia was beyond me.
Understanding you might not have reviewed flight logs or, even necessarily had a reason for acquiring them, is that a record that would still be kept in the custody of either yourself for personal travel or for the business, if those records were ever needed for some sort of purpose?
I don't know what the business kept, but if they're there, I'm sure they're welcome to look at them.
And so would you be able to obtain those records, assuming they do exist?
From the company?
Yes. Or personally?
I don't think he has access to them at the company. You guys have subpoena authority.
Yeah.
Do you recall how much you sold the plane to Mr. Epstein for?
The company?
The company sold, sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, I did. It was approximately $6 million.
And what would have been if you recall, what would have been the market value for that aircraft at that time?
$6 million.
Do you believe you got a fair deal for that aircraft?
The company got a fair deal.
Yes, the company got a fair deal for that aircraft.
Yeah, I thought it was a very fair deal.
Similar question to Mr. Epstein's acquisition of the New York townhome. How did Mr. Epstein purchase this plane from you? From the company. I'll get there, I promise.
Okay.
I presume we wrote a check.
And you weren't privy to the any of the fine details of that deal, so as far as which entity Mr. Epstein would have used to buy that plane from the company?
No. The plane, the value of the plane was appraised by an airplane broker. That plane was for sale for a year, and the value was $6 million. That's all I know.
Understood. And excuse me if this is repetition, but did Miss Maxwell ever travel with you on the plane?
Not that
On the
I
company's
recall.
plane?
Not that I recall.
Did you ever fly on an aircraft owned or operated by Jeffrey Epstein?
Absolutely not.
Did Mr. Epstein ever invite you to fly on any of his aircrafts that he owned or operated?
I think he might have, but I can't specifically remember the circumstance. Some of this is really difficult to remember because Jeffrey was such a con, and as I look back at it, that's it. He was much better at being a crook than I am as an honest person, and I think for the committee to understand this, the con part, I can't imagine a bigger crook or con the world has ever seen.
Do you recall what rationale you would have had for declining taking flights with Mr. Epstein on planes owned or operated by him?
I was busy, very busy. In busy years, I was in the air flying on business purpose in the air 300 to 400 hours a year. If you can imagine somebody traveling in the air 58-hour days and running a company, I ran it from the air as much as I did on the ground. So the last thing I wanted to do was take a trip with anybody.
Understood.
So the same people? I don't recognize all of them. Oh, okay.
Just focus on one.
Okay.
One of the subsidiaries of your corporation was Victoria's Secret, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is Victoria's Secret known for primarily?
I said the biggest, best lingerie brand in the world.
And
Kind of like Nike is to running shoes.
understood. And what type of events would occur to market or advertise that company while you were in control of it?
It was print advertising, it was TV ads. A lot of the marketing was point of purchase, the design of the stores, and of course the fashion show was kind of a magical thing for the brand.